Hello my friends, Jacob is here once again. It's been a while. Wow, I missed you. And what a show to come back with. So much to share today. I'm going to have to take this piece by piece because there have been so many, as they say, prophetic discoveries that just unexplainable. This is going to be such an eye-opening show. It's going to be one of those programs that by the end of the program, you're going to be shouting for joy, even though we may be facing some serious adversity and some bad stuff may be coming. But it's all working together for the good. All of these things, it's uncanny. It's uncanny. God is working and speaking in such a beautiful, amazing way. It's very difficult to discount any of this. Now, in the scriptures, just so you know, if you're new, listen, you don't have to be a religious person. I don't even like people that are like religious. I like people that know that there's probably more to life, okay? But you don't have to be somebody that, study the scriptures to understand this. We're going to talk about a story in the book of Daniel today. Daniel is a very significant prophetic book. It's, as they say, an end times book. Talked about Daniel a lot in the program, right? The program that I did a while ago about Donald Trump, the President Donald Trump. There was an issue, right? There was an issue. Everybody thought he was going to win by a landslide. I had a kooky dream where he was in a coffin covered in swamp moss and then he was alive. And because of that, I had told everybody, you know what? He's probably not going to win the election. It's going to look like and you helped me with this, a lot of you, because I didn't really understand it until the next show. A lot of you clued me into the fact that that swamp moss could have represented politics. So that he was in the coffin on this side in my dream, but yet he was celebrating and dancing on the left. Which at the time I thought, well, maybe he's in on it, right? Maybe there's going to be a big swerve, as they say in the entertainment industry, in wrestling. A big swerve where, the bad guys that are called heels and the good guys that are baby faces, they're actually in on the story together. They all work it out so that everybody gets this beautiful show. But I'm actually holding out hope that something else might happen. And all of these discoveries that have been just uncovered uncannily, just within the last couple of weeks or so, it kind of lends to the fact that even though right now everything seems so spooky, in a short period of time things are going to they're going to turn around, right? Because that other eclipse is coming 2024. In my novel, 2022 is kind of a big turning point. 2022 may be a big turning point for all of us as well, as you're going to see. So I did a video about Nebuchadnezzar. Now, Nebuchadnezzar, just so you know, I'm going to give you a little background before I get into all of the discoveries. Nebuchadnezzar was this great king who basically, kind of overthrew because Israel had become corrupt, came in, took over, became the great king, and had these dreams. There was this prophet named Daniel who could interpret these dreams, and he interpreted them. Because of it, he found great favor in Nebuchadnezzar's eyes. But he told Nebuchadnezzar had this dream of this gigantic tree that would grow up and it sheltered all the animals. And it was very symbolic of a king that would rise up, and basically the whole world would be under its rule. But in an instant, it was lopped down. He had this dream and it was cut down. But the stump and the root remained in the ground. Now this is significant because I saw Trump as Nebuchadnezzar, and I had said that in an instant everything was going to be taken away from him. In this video right here. You can click on that link, or go back and find the video for yourself. But that's exactly what happened. One of the most powerful men in the world, probably the most powerful man in the world, in an instant, everything was stripped from him. but that root remains in the ground. It's kind of like gave Nebuchadnezzar a chance to repent, maybe to return to God. And that's where our story begins. Now, there's a passage in the book of Ecclesiastes. It's one of my favorite passages in the scriptures. There's nothing new under the sun. Whatever has been will be again, and whatever is now has always been. So it's kind of like this story is played out again and again and again and again. We, as Shakespeare wrote, all the world's a stage, all men and women merely players. We all have our exits and our entrances, and one man in his day plays many parts. All those Bible stories, all those characters, they're you. You have your Jonah moments, you have your Isaiah moments, you have your Jeremiah moments, you have your Elijah moments, you have your Deborah moments, you have your Ruth moments. You have all of these times in your life where these stories completely relate to what you're going through. And I got to tell you something. If that is not playing out right now, I don't know what is. And you're going to probably find out by the end of the program. I'm going to say some things that are about to happen. And when they happen, it should be without a shadow of a doubt that God is in control. And you should no longer question whether or not God has a plan. Oh, this is a show. This is a show. Okay, so let me get into this. A couple of weeks ago, archaeologists discovered an etching, an inscribed stone. And it had on it the last king of Babylon. Now, Babylon, just so you know that word Babylon, it was a great kingdom. It means confusion with mixture. All right, so there's a little bit of truth in there, but there's a lot of confusion, a lot of lies. It's very symbolic. Babel, right? The Tower of Babel, Babel. I've done many programs on this as well. Once again, go to my website, just so you know, jacobisrael.com. It's right there in the corner of the screen. Subscribe to the channel. There's plenty of essays that I've written over the years, hundreds of them, and poetry. It's all free. It's not behind a paywall. Go there and learn more about Babylon, because Babylon is in the land today, okay? But Babylon is fallen indeed, meaning it's going to be overthrown by another kingdom. It's coming in. That's going to happen very shortly. It's like written out. I can't see it going any other way. And I think that, you know, if you've been here long enough, I've said things where I feel like things are going to happen, and then boom, they do, right? Like the rain is coming. I did my shows on Elijah, where it was time to present yourself to Ahab. I felt like it was time for me to speak on, you know, behalf of God and behalf of faith, and to kind of come against the system in a way, and to say, we're here and things are about to change. You better get ahead of the rain. That's what I said in that video, because the rain was coming, and the rain came. Like within days, there was one rocket attack after another, and they were describing it as rain, but then torrential downpours, floods, monsoons. Look at the flooding all over the world. China, Germany, it's the rain. Nothing can stop it. Really, that rain was about something spiritual. It was about the truth. But of course, it's going to literally play out, because this is going to literally play out. But it's a message that is meant to be taken spiritually, and it's for the children of the kingdom to know that their deliverance is near. This is why we should be excited, because the last king of Babylon, his name, by the way, not Nebuchadnezzar. No. Nabonidus is the guy's name. He ruled the second incarnation of the Babylonian emperor, right after Nebuchadnezzar. Some say that he's related. Now, in the book of Daniel, this is where it gets weird, okay? Because if Trump is significant of Nebuchadnezzar, then you would say that President Biden would be Nabonidus. Now, this is where it gets very confusing. This is where it gets very interesting, okay? Because in the story of Daniel, we learn of that ruler becoming like a madman, becoming demented, like dementia, right? But the interesting thing is, according to a scroll that was discovered about King Nabonidus, this one, the Dead Sea Scrolls found in Qumran in 1948 confirmed that Nabonidus, not Nebuchadnezzar, was the demented king, the mad king, the king who lost his marbles and couldn't think straight, couldn't speak, didn't know where he was most of the time. Nabonidus, the king that followed Nebuchadnezzar. Nabonidus. Isn't that something? Isn't that interesting? Now, this is the guy that goes around mumbling and babbling and everything else. He's the guy that has his kingdom taken away. Now, Nabonidus, just so you know, he has a son. We learn about this son in the book of Daniel as well. I think it was chapter 5, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. His name is Belshazzar. Now, this is where the title of the video comes in, The Writings on the Wall. You see, Belshazzar, he didn't respect God. He didn't care about God at all. Actually, he was all into partying and doing drugs and all sorts of nonsense. Probably he was doing things with a bunch of people he shouldn't have been doing things with. And God corrected him for it. So when Nebuchadnezzar came in, he took all the golden vessels and all the silver vessels and all these important, we'll say faith-filled objects that were used for sacrifices, for honoring God, for honoring the God of Jacob, the mighty one of Jacob, the God of Israel, the one true God, the only God there is, the one that we're all connected to, the one that President Biden refused to acknowledge in the National Day of Prayer. What an outrage! When a country goes corrupt, God will put that country in the hands of a corrupted king. And so he did with Nabonidus. And then Nabonidus, since he was such a Looney Tunes and he lost his marbles and he couldn't really think straight, he was more like a figurehead, kind of just, keeping up appearances. Belshazzar, on the other hand, was reaping all the rewards. He was having parties, orgies, messed up stuff. And one day when he was really wasted and everybody was around, he says, you know what, hey everybody, you know what I'm gonna do? Go get me all those vessels. Go get me all those sacred artifacts that the Hebrews had to honor their God. Bring them in here and let's get wasted. Let's do lines on that and let's drink out of that and let's do this and let's do that. And people were like, whoa, that's kind of messed up because the God of Israel, there are stories about the God of Israel and he doesn't like being disrespected too much and he can only take so much. He only lets people go so far before they're corrected. And correction is coming to us all. So Belshazzar, he throws this party and they bring in all these vessels and they all use them and they defile them. They defile them in such a way it's terrible. And then in the midst of the party, guess what happens? Out of the blue, writing on the wall, a finger comes on and writes these words, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. I'm going to read you what that means in a second. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for the day that we're in. It's not a good thing for the corrupt leaders, because just as the writing on the wall takes place, because just so you know, all of these discoveries that I'm about to lay out for you, which are going to give you the chills, like the hair in the back of your neck's going to rise, and you're going to be tears of joy and praise. I can't wait to get to the best part. It all lines up to this is about to happen. The writing's on the wall now. Change is coming shortly, and nothing's going to stop it, because they're corrupt, they're corrupted, what they're doing. God has heard the cries of his people. Because there are a lot of you out there, a lot of you in the audience right now. You've been praying, right? I've been telling you, don't worry, it's okay. It's a big movie. It's okay. God's gonna protect you. God's gonna take care of you. But big upheaval is coming regardless. But if you have faith, you'll understand. If you can read the words on that wall, the scripture says, you could be saved. Those who can understand the writing on the wall, Belshazzar says, are going to be clothed in royal robes. They're going to be given up to a third of the kingdom. Those that understand the warning. Belshazzar, none of their sorcerers, none of these guys, they could figure it, none of them. So somebody tells them about Daniel. Daniel, who was Nebuchadnezzar's. You know, Daniel actually liked Nebuchadnezzar. He didn't want to see Nebuchadnezzar fall. He's like, you know, pray, king, that maybe you can turn this around. But remember, there was a stump that was left in the earth. A stump, a root, a grassroots movement. Anybody know what that could be symbolic of today? Got a lot of people still wearing those hats, right? The stump's still in the ground. The root's still in the ground. The movement, as they say, still in the ground. And I'm not a fan of either. Just so you know, I'm not on the fence. I'm not into the system. I'm praying that God can use this king or that king. I'm praying God's just gonna do what God's gonna do. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what I'm hearing, but I do like what I'm seeing and hearing spiritually, because change is coming. So they had this inscribed stone of King Nabonidus. And I knew there was something to it, but I didn't know what exactly. But then I heard about this discovery. This is great, okay? Because you remember, back in the day, Trump had said, we're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. And I did a program about Nehemiah and how, you know, the wall had been torn down and Jerusalem had been laid to waste, and Nehemiah had it on his heart to build that wall again. And what does a wall do? It protects, right? What does a wall do? It keeps you safe. Build the wall. And the wall was totally torn down. But there was a discovery of a wall. But not just any wall. Solomon's temple. It was a defensive wall. It was found intact next to a stone with a Babylon seal. Babylonian seal near the wall. Interesting how it all comes together. Featuring a figure with two symbols, the Babylon gods, Marduk and Nebo, or Nebo, which Nabonidus is named after. Interesting stuff, because these guys also, they say, are the Anunnaki guys and Nibiru and all that stuff. Fallen angels. So they found this defensive wall, but here's the thing. It was totally intact. Hadn't been torn down, it was like perfect. That means that God has kept a defense in the land that couldn't be torn down by Babylon. A wall that's impenetrable. Much like, just so you know, because things will happen here in the earth, they will happen out there in the heavens, they'll happen in the sea. They found a huge wall in space. Astronomers discover South Pole Wall, a gigantic structure stretching, get this, 1.4, that's going to be important very shortly, 1.4, think 144,000, that 1.4 billion light years across. Another wall, another wall. So you see, that's where I start thinking. I was like, oh, here's Nabonidus, then here's the wall, And then, of course, Belshazzar, the son of Nabonidus, the demented king, the guy who's losing his marbles, the guy who can't think straight. He has this son, this spoiled little rich kid, who's partying all the time and loving being the king's kid, right? He was made, he's called a king in the book of Daniel, but really he wasn't a king, he was a regent. He was just kind of put in charge while the old man was out bumping into stuff or saying weird things and not making a lot of sense. And doing, I mean, look, corruption is at the helm because people have corrupted. People have turned away from the God of Israel. They've turned away from the God of love. They've turned away from the one true God, the only one that unites us all. The one who created everything, it has been totally ignored. And they worship what? Like Belshazzar? The gods of silver, the gods of gold, the gods of stone, things their own hands made. They worship the things they own. They're rockets that they can take them to space. Ooh, I can fly to space while everybody else is suffering. You don't think God's going to answer that? God is answering it. This is the day. This is the end, people. The end of a corrupt system. The end of Babylon. Because on that wall, when Daniel came in, guess what happens? He read what those words meant. So the king, Belshazzar, came and says, I'll give you all of this stuff. I'll give you all this stuff. Third of the kingdom. All of this great stuff could be yours if you just tell me what this means. And you know what Daniel said? Because he knew what it meant. He's like, keep it. I don't want it. I don't want any of it. Because you sure? Maybe we should just leave this one alone. Maybe we should leave this one alone. And the guy's like, no, I have to know. I have to know what it means. I have to know what it means. So Daniel's like, okay. And, he goes on to say, Your Majesty, the Most High God gave your father sovereignty and greatness and glory and splendor. God puts the people in charge that they're supposed to be in charge. And he said because of the high position he gave him, all the nations and every people and every language was scared of him. Because he did some terrible things. Scared of him, right? Those that the king wanted to put to death, he put to death. Those that he wanted out of the way, he put them out of the way. He did whatever he wanted. But when his heart became arrogant and hardened with pride, he was disposed from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. And Nebuchadnezzar, he was a guy who was like, hey, I did this. Look at what I did. I'm the best. I'm the best. Nobody's done what I've done. Look at me. You see, God put President Trump in power. And some could say, because he's like Nebuchadnezzar, right? The head of gold, right? He's known for his gold. He's got a gold toilet, for crying out loud. He was disposed. His power was taken from him because he got hung up with some pride. He forgot that God placed him there to begin with. And we have hopes that maybe, perhaps, he will return to the Lord because that stump of his kingdom's still there waiting to grow once again. So Nebuchadnezzar's out of the way. Nabonidus is in power. He becomes a lunatic. A nut, doesn't know, can't really think straight. So Belshazzar's partying. And what happens? But you, Belshazzar, you've not humbled yourself, though you knew all this. Instead, you set yourself up against the Lord of heaven. You set yourself up against the creator of all. You praise gods of silver and gold and bronze and iron, wood and stone, which can't see or hear or nothing. And you forgot the God of Israel. You forgot the one that is in charge of everything. You forgot the creator of all. This is what the inscription was written. Mene, mene, tekel, parshin. Here's what those words mean. Mene, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Hear that, people, because you think there's no light at the end of the tunnel, but it's coming to an end. Tekel, you've been weighed and on the scales and found wanting. They're going to be judged, and it's not going to be good. The judgment's going to come to them. I don't know if you noticed, but judgment's already been coming. When my daughter couldn't go to the college that she got accepted to, got a scholarship to, and got because a certain governor decided that she had to have something that as a 17-year-old she really didn't need. I took to Twitter and said, if you be corrupt, that you will show that this man is corrupt and that he will be stripped from his power. That was in May. I reshared that tweet again. I said, will this tweet age well? It aged well. You see, and I've on Twitter been sharing one thing after another thing after another thing. You see a lot of corruption starting to bubble to the surface. We find out that the people that are in charge, scary, corrupt, foul, devious, evil people, and they're going to be revealed. God's going to shout it from the rooftops. This is the day we're in. This is the day we're in. The reign is here, right? That's what Elijah said. Your kingdom is divided, and it's going to be given to the Persians and the Medes. This kingdom right now, it's divided. His own party, President Biden, his own party is so divided. It's laughable. It's laughable. And we're all so upset, and we're all so scared. And yet, all we need to do is have faith and just trust in God and do the right thing. That's what Daniel did, okay? That's what Daniel did. And it worked out okay for him. It worked out okay for him. But I have to also say, because I also see what's coming next. Now, this is where it gets really weird, okay? So buckle up. So you know who comes in and overthrows Belshazzar? You know who it is? Cyrus. In the book of Daniel, it's King Darius, but Darius and Cyrus intertwined, same thing. Cyrus the Great. Cyrus, by the way, comes over and overthrows this kingdom. Cyrus the Great, who also was okay with religious freedom. Cyrus, who says, yeah, build it up, build your temple again, build your temple again. All of this stuff is coming. Do you know who is known as Cyrus in the land today? That's right, Donald Trump. On the coin. And once again, I am not saying the dude's good. I don't know. I worry. I hope that the Lord is going to use him to do good things, to bring back. But you got to remember, they're all in it together, in my opinion. But my opinion, what is it worth? I don't know. I'm not in on the know, but I do know the story. And the story is when the kingdom got too corrupt, when they started defiling, God in such a way, God said, that's it, you're done. The writing's on the wall, just like that discovery. So what ends up happening, right? And what ends up happening is Darius comes in, Cyrus comes in, they take over. And Darius, Cyrus, like Daniel, okay? I use Darius and Cyrus interchangeably because there's some, historically, they're basically the same character. Even though they may be two different people, they were the ones that were ruling. They liked Daniel. They were going to give Daniel a huge, it was kind of like, could you imagine the stump being in the ground, Darius coming in, that's the stump, that's the kingdom. Okay, Cyrus the Great, Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus returns, he falls as Nebuchadnezzar, comes back as Cyrus, stump's there, and he likes Daniel. So much so that he wants to kind of make him ruler of everything else. But all the people that are there, they didn't like that. They're like, no way. What about us? What about us? So what they do is they trick the king. They trick the king into making him, once again, go to his pride. Nobody can worship God but you for 30 days. And they knew that Daniel always prayed to God. They knew that Daniel was a servant of God. And they knew Daniel wouldn't listen. And they made a decree, because in the Persian and Medes, if a decree is made, it can't be broken. And the decree was, for these 30 days, if you praise any other God, you're going to be thrown in the lion's den. And that's what happened, was the decree was made. They caught Daniel praying, as he did 3 times. He was praying to the Lord. I pray constantly. You should pray constantly too. And by prayer, I just mean I'm constantly what do I do next? Help me to do this better. I'm always talking to the Lord. Always. Like in the shower before I came here, to give me the words. Let the show make sense. Let the people understand. Let them see what I'm seeing, Lord. And let it be true. Let it be true. Deliver us. So he prayed. And then they went to the king and they said, well, you know what you got to do? You got to put Daniel in the lion's den now, because you know the rules. You know the rules, king. Can't be broken. So Darius, Cyrus, says to Daniel, may your God protect you. And they sealed him up in the lion's den. They rolled a big stone over. This is all symbolic, too, of us being put through the fire. Right? Consider not the fiery trial that's upon you. The hard times that you're going through, you should rejoice in them, Because they are creating patience, and patience leads you to wonderful things. Faith is so important today, people. Regardless of what you're facing, just know that God is there. Daniel was thrown in the lion's den, sealed in the lion's den, the signet ring of the king on there so no one could do it. And in the morning, when they rolled that stone away, the king cries out, "Daniel, the servant of the Most High, are you still alive?" And he's like, "I'm here, king." You know why? Let me read this to you. I put this out on Twitter too. At the first light of dawn, very significant of the day when the dawn finally rises, when the truth finally rises. "May the king live forever," Daniel shouted. "God sent his angel, shut the mouths of the lions." Lions, by the way, are enemies. Shut the mouths of lions, anything that's coming against us. Liars, hard times. Shut their mouths. They seek to devour. "They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in God's sight. Nor have I ever done you wrong before, Your Majesty." Interesting. Never. If you do the right thing, God protects you. So Daniel's restored fully. And then a new day rises for those that serve God. Because God will confirm things in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So that means that you'll hear things once, you'll hear it twice, you'll see things once, you'll see it twice, you'll see it again and again and again, and you'll know that God is speaking. And God is speaking, okay? So 3 years ago, it's crazy. 3 years ago, wait till you hear this. Do you remember I did a video about this? On July 20th, 2018, in Egypt, they found a mysterious Egyptian sarcophagus. And it was huge, and it had 3 skeletons and sewage and blood, and it was spooky. And they said, "Oh, don't open it, because if you open it, the plagues are gonna come." And I said the plagues are gonna come, and the plagues came, right? And they opened it, and it was gross, and it was terrible. But guess what they just found? Exactly 3 years later. 3 years, on the 3rd day, Christ rises. So that sarcophagus was disgusting. It was gross. Take a look. But 3 years later, to the day, exactly, archaeologists found a preserved, get this, 1400, remember that number, year-old Visigoth sarcophagus, filled with the human remains under a Roman villa in Spain with, get this, the earliest seal of Christ. But this sarcophagus didn't look like some gross Egyptian monster sarcophagus. Evil. It was beautiful. It was pristine, and it had rings. The Lord of the Rings. Take a look. Measuring about 6'7", it's decorated with a geometric pattern and ivy leaves. Archaeologists, they thought it was a decorative pillar until they saw the Christian symbol at the end of it. This one. Now get this, that symbol doesn't just represent Christ. It represents the resurrection of Christ today. 3 years. Do you feel that? You feel that's chilling? 3 years exactly. The evil shows up and God shows up. The evil's, ruling, and then God rules. That's what's happening today. How do I know? Because there were other discoveries too. There was another discovery. This time it was 2 coins. 2,000-year-old coins hailing freedom of Zion in Jerusalem in the West Bank. These 2 coins, these ones. And guess what one side bears? A vine leaf, just like the sarcophagus. That's a coincidence, don't you think? Do you know what Zion is, by the way? It's the name of God's city. It's the new kingdom, New Jerusalem, Zion. This is freedom to Zion. This is why you should be excited. I know it's scary. I know it's tough right now. It's not easy for me either. Whether it's health issues or work issues or life issues or fear issues. I mean, you got so much stuff to deal with today. But yet these two coins hailing freedom to Zion. The sarcophagus, pristine condition, with the name of Christ's resurrection for this day on its head. The writing's on the wall. And how do I know this? Because the new day is coming. And I'm not talking about a new day where it's just, everything's going to be peachy and keen. It's going to be hard. But for the remnant of God, in the book of Joel, they talk about the army of God, this 144,000. Behind them is as a desert wasteland, and in front of them is as the Garden of Eden. In front of all of us people is as the Garden of Eden. We are a new creation in Christ, a new man in Christ. The old man has passed away. The things that we've done, they're no longer relevant. The mistakes we've made, it doesn't matter. The day that we are in now is one where the past is put to death. We're no longer going to be ruled by the devil, the life that we've lived. We're not going to be ruled by the shame of Egypt, which is what Pharaoh means. Pharaoh, nakedness, shame. In the New Testament, it says, the Pharaoh shall be your shame. We're no longer going to be slaves to Babylon, because we're about to be set free. We're going to become a new man. And how do I know this? Because 140,000 years ago, there was a skeleton that was laid in the ground for this day. And archaeologists just discovered it. A new type of ancient human, a new man, was discovered. The Nesher Ramla remains themselves were found in what used to be a sinkhole. Think about that. Remember we just did the sinkhole, the devil's well, all that stuff. The remains were found there. Prehistoric humans. According to analysis at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, there were tools that they had the same tools as modern humans, but they are totally distinct and unique. It was a surprise that archaic humans were using tools normally associated with Homo sapiens. This is an ancient people that is rising, an ancient people that has been discovered for 140,000, 1.4 billion, 1,400. The wall that's discovered. Mene tekel parsha, on the wall. The writing is on the wall. A new day is rising, people. I hope you're excited about it. And I hope that this video has encouraged you. And if it has, do me a favor, don't just be somebody who sits there and watches and enjoys it. Share it. Tell people to watch this. Don't be embarrassed. Don't hide that light under a bushel. All you do is hit share, hit like, leave a comment, tell people. It's important. This is the day we're entering into. I know it's kooky to have faith in God today because the world system has done everything it can to try to eradicate it. But that sarcophagus was just discovered. Christ's resurrection is here. So I hope you're buckled up. I love each and every one of you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching Jacob Israel. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and share this channel around. If these shows have helped you, help Jacob to reach more any way you can, and have the best day ever.
Click it.